Welcome back on the AM show, and today is a special day. It's our very first installment of something we're going to be bringing to you every week. We call it AM Exclusive. We're going to be getting those people that matter, not just in the corridors, those who walk the corridors of political power, but those who have something to say, something to share with us. And today we're pleased to bring you from his own office, Dr. Dickson Adumaku Kissi. He's a medical doctor by profession. I also hear he has a bit of an economics background. Maybe he'll share some of that with you. But he also is Member of Parliament for Sowutuom. But something has happened in the NPP primaries. We'll get into all of the action with him. Doc?
Good morning.
Thanks for joining.
Appreciate it, and the pleasure is mine. Yeah.
Right. Let's start with your constituency, Sowutuom. You've been on my show a number of times and we've spoken about Antieku, the road and everything.
Yes.
But you've also done a lot in Sowutuom over the past few years. Things that I've been in the constituency at a point, which I have seen. So it came as a bit of a surprise when your delegates failed to vote for you. In fact, if you look at the difference between you and the winner, it's almost 200 and something. Emmanuel Tobin polled 818 votes. You polled 566. How did this happen? What do you think accounted for it?
Well, first of all, let me thank the media houses. You guys do fantastic in terms of your engagement with the public. And any opportunity I get to do this, I'm also very happy. With regards to the primaries, I mean, there are so many factors that go into it. And I think every constituency is different. For mine, I think one, it was also a surprise for me because I felt that our constituency was a type that was a very long-term thinking, in the sense that we've always kept our leaders at post for a long time so that they can grow, learn,
have time to do stuff,
improve over time. And we've always been of the opinion that the longer you stay, the better the constituency gets. But then again, times do change. And as it stands now, this election had so many issues. But I think that to a large extent, I mean, one, I'm a dissenting mind in some circles. And I think that may have also contributed.
When you speak of a dissenting mind, I know some of what you may be thinking of, because you were one of those MPs, for example, who felt that Kenofriata should go at a point in time. You shared your opinion. And one thing I have liked about you is the fact that you are not one of those MPs who kowtow, who toe a certain strict line without necessarily looking at the surrounding circumstances. You speak this way, you speak that way, but you think maybe some of those decisions you took, for example, we do know that some of your colleagues, those who stood, saying that Kenofriata should go, have actually lost their seats as well.
True.
You feel that came back to bite you?
Well, I mean, like, there are multiple factors, but that certainly is one. And I also think that as we mature as a country, we'll get to a point where we will also take care of dissenting minds. And I'll cite the likes of today, Roe versus Wade in America.
Right.
At a point in time, the dissenting minds were not respected.
Right.
But 50 years down the line, their dissent is what is in vogue. There are many other decisions in the Supreme Court justices that sometimes the dissenting opinion was not respected during the time, and later on became the voice of the people. And it's like fashion. Sometimes in the 80s, what was fashionable wasn't fashionable in the 90s. I mean, young men now like Afro. It wasn't a big deal, a few years ago. People are keeping more beard now. It was
reminiscent of decades ago.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
It goes and comes.
So I think that sometimes dissenting opinions don't matter during the actual time, but history might be the best judge.
Are you suggesting then that some of you were set up to lose in a way? Because look, whether you're looking at your dissenting as far as Ken Ofori-Atta is concerned, or you're being open-minded in discussing some of the myriad issues, and you've done that a lot on my show, and I've personally behind the scenes commended you for that. And maybe for the fact that you had come across this way, some were not comfortable with your positioning and set you up to lose? Because I've heard different things, all the way to even another MP who could have contributed to your loss. So what do you make of it?
Well, the thing is, there's also a cultural thing. You know, I think my foreign upbringing also influences me in the sense that I'm used to being vocal. And in Ghana, I think that most of the time people want you to not say what you think and rather be mute and suffer in quiet. And you know, per my exposure out, we prefer that people speak their minds. And I think that if you don't speak your mind, then what's the point of the knowledge acquired? What's the point of the experience, you know, acquired? And I believe that it's important for legislative members to be able to express themselves and to, at all times, be the people's representative.
But are you not able to do that?
Well, I think you suffer the consequences.
You feel you've suffered the consequences? Which,
to some extent, I mean, you know, I like I said, there are many factors that contributed to this, but certainly, I think dissenting opinions would have contributed, and I believe that, like I said, history later will be the best judge. And I also think that, you know, in politics, some have been shot and killed for dissenting.
Right.
And this is not a death. This is let's say is you know somewhat of a loss, but the voice still stays on. And I believe that even after Parliament, I'm still going to be very active politically. To be able to speak as and when necessary on matters and issues that I think that I know something about, and I'm going to still contribute largely, especially on the importance of healthcare in the next election. And I believe that the onus is on us to also make certain things important to the politicians, so that if the politicians know that rent issues are key to Ghanaians, it will become a key talking point. If politicians become aware that jobs and jobs and jobs are what the youth are asking for, then if you stand on the podium, you better give us solutions to jobs. Right. So I'm going to be in one corner, making sure that healthcare is front and center of 2024 elections. And I'm not doing it necessarily just for the NPP, but more importantly, so that the populace also are conscientized to appreciate efforts that either the NPP has done in the health domain, or the NDC, or what they stand to give us if they should come, so that we can weigh what the NPP party has done on the health front in terms of the human capital, in terms of the infrastructure, and then posit that against a track record of the Mahama administration, and then more importantly, make a demand that, hey, the NDC took away NES's allowance, the NPP brought it. Has it been beneficial? We need to carefully assess. We need to
have those crucial conversations on policy,
on policies
and effecting those.
And then move away from, you know, those things that really aren't necessary. I believe that we should put more merit into our governance system. And, you know, the politicians are a reflection of the people. So if the people are demanding appropriate things, the politicians will have to yield.
Suit. Right.
So maybe we're not doing enough as citizenry. We should be driving the issues. In the U.S. And other jurisdictions, it is about immigration.
Yeah.
Immigration.
Topical issue.
So we can drive whatever we're doing to make sure that we're making healthcare important.
Right.
We're making vis-a-vis education, higher education important. We're making jobs for the youth important. So these are my thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know you're very passionate about health-related issues. That is clear. And whenever we've had interactions, you've always found a way of bringing that in. But would I be correct in concluding then that what you're communicating to me and to our viewers is that this is just a comma, a semicolon in the sequence of the sentence of your political career, and that it's not a full stop?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There'll be more paragraphs or sentences to come.
Absolutely. This is just the beginning for Dr. Kissi. I'm still under 50, and I think most senior politicians start in their 50s. So for a young guy, I can only say that I may have started too early doing politics. But that doesn't mean...
I think we tend to start too late in our part of the world.
Well,
look
I
at
mean...
the ages of presidents and other places.
Yeah,
you know, so.
Yeah, Obama was president at 40. Yeah. So I think that, in all honesty, this is just the beginning. It's not even... this is just the beginning. So I've had a very good taste of my beginnings of politics. And this is my third primaries I've gone to. And for me, I think it's just the beginning. So
you lost the first?
I lost the first to Honorable Shelia Yokoboche, slim margin. Went the second. Won. And then the third lost to, Ima. And it's just a beginning.
Okay.
And politics in this country takes so many shapes and forms. So it won't be necessarily just parliament. I mean, but there's going to be a comeback in one way, shape or form. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move away from those who were set up to lose and all of that. I've heard so many conversations on the back of that. But let's talk about delegates. I feel it's a dragon that we are rearing, giving life to, and someday it's going to spit fire and consume our political system. And I'm talking about both of you parties, because we look at your internal politics and see the money that is shared. We've seen LED TVs, or is it whatever, state of the art.
Eventually we'll buy airplanes.
People are giving 5,000 CDs, 2,000 CDs to delegates. I've had people tell me, that we gave millions of CDs. We expended millions of CDs on D-Day. That before that, and I'm asking myself, do you guys have that much money to blow, to throw around on the back of? And I've even heard some people say, Adomaku Kissi ontia, which is why. What is your experience?
Well, I think that in principle, politics, we all need to be very careful, because I think that you're right about delegates and the fact that it's becoming a beast. That if we're not careful,
it has become a beast. Now some of them. I mean, you remember the last time they will tell you, no money, no vote.
No vote. Yeah. So what it is, I think that some very serious considerations have to be given by both parties, in terms of the way forward, and then in terms of the college that decides on who becomes your representative, and I believe that. It is rather appropriate that in the future we have an appropriate college, that those who decide, an electoral college, that those who make that decision go through some care in terms of why and why not. And I believe that it should be so tight that to an extent that if there's any monetary influence, you might be disqualified. And I really think that That might be
there. Your party has spoken about even the TNT, and they'll do this and do that. You don't do this, but people are still doing it. In Francis Hassan Sobwache's Bantama, there was talk about camping, but it was said, no, it's not camping. It is people who have come together to pray at a point in time. People are finding innovative means. What is one thing that is clear is that no matter what the parties say, these people circumvent, so they find ways of going about it. I think the parties are not willing to crack the whip.
People are sophisticated. Both the politicians and the voters are sophisticated. So it's a very complex game. But either way, I believe that, let me be frank with you. I've been a student of James Cameron, okay? And
the former British PM.
Yes, who's now in another role. I believe that, one, we need to educate our people who wish to go into politics. There should be an appropriate, not just political science. The pool from which they pull people to do politics in the UK or in America are very well read, well learned, technical people, so that what they churn out is good content. You
know what you remind me of? Kwame Nkrumah's ideological institute. You can call it propaganda. The Cubans do it to a certain extent, but I feel we need, I agree with you, we need some basics, because sometimes, honestly, I speak to some of you politicians and you ask yourself, where did this person, you can tell it's just about this person has been thrust into a certain position. They lack certain basic things.
Yeah. So I think that the content will improve if the caliber of people, look at the Israeli system. Every young guy goes through the military, and then out of that, they have a special unit that is based on your performance and based on your knowledge and skill, and until you've gone through these and qualified, you not see yourself in some positions, and that helps with merit. And I always say that, listen, elsewhere, when they have to choose from people being judges on the Supreme Court, there's a barrage of very skilled people. And if they have a leaning towards one direction or the other, it's not as bad as having a non-skilled person being appointed. So I think that over time, and that also depends on the executive, it is important that we make sure that the people and caliber of people we appoint have some basic level of acumen that is acceptable. That will make them also perform. Now, the other thing too is that, unfortunately, some don't like to have around challenging minds. And that also needs to be
problem of our politics.
Looked at in politics.
People like yesers, people who say yes, yes, without questioning why we're doing X, Y, or Z.
Yeah. So if we have an attitude of not encouraging dissenting minds, or we just want to flow with people who are yes men, then we stand to lose as a country. And I've done a lot of managerial studies, and sometimes your opponents actually even give you richer contribution than even those who you seem to think are always saying yes. And in politics, as they say, that's the reason why you draw your enemies closer, so that you can be careful in your adjudication and your exercise of your duty. Right. Because those around you would always say, oh, what you're doing is right. But then it takes, for us, the likes of the opposition, to point out some things that, I think that just quite recently, there's VAT 15%. It's dissenting minds that won the day, in as much as the party government wanted it, some dissenting minds made a strong case to the presidency, and cabinet said that, hey.
But even then, there's no confirmation. There's not been any affirmation, so to speak, from Parliament, from cabinet. There's nothing yet. It's been out there. There's been talk about it. There's not been any confirmation, which is why organized labor, is still saying, until they hear something concrete, February the 13th, they will be laying out their tools, they'll be demonstrating. But what do you make of it? People have said that, look, on the back of everything going on, how can you even think of, another 15% on that is VAT on electricity? But government is also in the grips of an IMF program. I hear that there was, government was caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. You either reduce expenditure by about 0.2%, or you get that 0.2% via some of these channels, and they opted for.
The key thing is that, in the local parlance, there's a quiet chain at the FA. Now, yeah, they cashed it all. So the key thing is that the average Ghanaian has, appetite for good things, lovely things. They want plush of everything. But we need to imbibe in us that culture of whatever it is you want, you have to put in to get. And it should not be such that we always want it handed to us for no work. And I really think that for us to do better moving forward as a country, our culture, understanding of taxation needs to be carefully looked at. We need to be innovative in our thinking and approach to teaching the average Ghanaian that, hey, to keep our city clean, we all need to put in. And then sometimes the culture isn't even about how you dirty your city. It's how you prevent the dirtying. And we create the filth, and then we want somebody else to come and clean after. So in short, we should note that government runs on two things: taxes and loans. And government doesn't have money hanging somewhere. Government is like a business. And the only two things that keeps government running is revenue from loans or taxes. Now, when you are in a fix, as we are, where you cannot get the loans, then you have to raise the other arm.
When you've borrowed yourself into the...
Well, we've borrowed
which
and
is
borrowed.
Bad business practice, bad management
Well,
practice.
I mean, there's two things about borrowing too, which I need to share with you. You borrow to do good investments or bad investments. And I believe that if you've borrowed for good investments, then it's good.
Have we borrowed for good investments?
Largely.
500 plus billion Ghana cedis we've added to the debt stock of 122 billion. When you look around you, do you see that we've used this money critically for what it could have? I mean, this administration has had more than all administrations
we could have done better.
in this Fourth Republic combined.
We could have done better in hindsight, that one admittedly. Yeah. But today I'm happy to see the likes of the road leading to Nsawam being done. I'm happy to hear that Temamoto Way will be done. It's a lot of joy to me. So
will be done. We're waiting for it to be done.
I mean, these are very...
So many things have been
December
said,
we've signed, and I think that this will come to, a reality soon. And I believe that, yes, the likes of the sea defense, if you've been to...
Which one,
Cape
Qatar?
Coast?
Or which one?
There's one in Cape Coast, which recently, I did Elmina. Yeah, when you've seen these projects and you are there and you appreciate the concept principle behind them, you realize that these were good investments and Ghana needed it. And if you look at the energy sector, a lot of the investments there, whether we like it or not, are very relevant to the Ghanaian people, the average Ghanaian. And the only painful thing, which I have to say, is that human capital investment is very difficult to appreciate in the short term. The countless students, yesterday one woman called me who was, distraught that I lost my election, but she called saying that, listen, let's forge on and make sure that the NPP stays on, because her 3 grandkids have enjoyed free SHS. And for her, that is meaningful and she wants it to continue. Now, how do you measure the impact or benefit of her 3 children who have enjoyed free SHS? It's very difficult. But 10 years down the line, if one of them is a doctor, carpenter, hairdresser, and based on the current knowledge acquired, they are performing better, then you can appreciate it. And until then, you can't. And I know of people who may not have ever been professional accountants, if not for this opportunity, which has brought them to the limelight because they had this.
For which opportunity?
No, I mean to be, considered for accounting.
Okay.
Because he would not have ventured into school, and his or her father may have said, "Kwame nko first, na ichi abefa." By the time ichi abefa, then you'd have been doing something totally different. So I believe that the benefits are immeasurable, but at the moment we cannot appreciate. And I know for sure that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo will go down in history, if not for anything, by the capital investment and the more so important, the human capital. And if I'm weighing the two, it's going to be Nana Addo human capital investment. Okay. And that is what he's done. And trust me, it is so difficult to measure the benefits, immediate benefits.
I guess with those, it is time that definitely will tell. I just want to go back briefly because we've moved on, delved even into the VAT 15% and free SHS and everything. But there was a start point. Your constituency and the loss in the primaries. But I just wanted to ask you this. How much did you spend in that? Because I've heard interesting figures and I'm just curious. I'm sure our viewers are curious as well. How much did you have to spend campaigning before, during, after? I've heard of people who say that on D-Day, Charlie, the amount of cash they gave out.
The last time I said how much I spent, I was, under a lot of serious scrutiny. Really? By our tax handlers in this country.
Hey.
So
this
I've learned my lesson. But let me be honest about one thing. Campaigns are expensive now. Campaigns are expensive. Even if you're doing T-shirts, posters, whatever it is. I did calendars and things like that. Campaigns are expensive, and I think on average, your number of delegates matter. I had close to 1,500 delegates.
1,500.
Yes, and it's a gamble. So but then it gets.
So you gambled.
It gets to a point.
Your gamble didn't pay off.
It gets to a point you have to ask yourself. I mean, is what you're going to get worth this much? And,
so I just did a simple calculation, and this is like the bare bones of it because I've heard of 5,000, 3,000, 2,000 per delegate. You have 1,500 delegates,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Even if you were giving them 1,000 cities, that is 1.5 million Ghana cedis. Only. I like the way you went only.
I've always liked the word only because when you write checks, if it's even a billion, you'd say only. Okay.
Wow.
So that's
So you had to do what you had to do.
Yes, I mean
you had to take the gamble.
I had to, and I think that decisions don't come cheap. Decisions don't come cheap, and every thing when you're doing policy. That's why policy is expensive.
Right.
When we have to agree or disagree on policy matters, that is why decisions don't come easy. So, you learn it, and it's worth the play. I can boldly say that going through 3 primaries, I'm a very somewhat experienced politician now, and the experience gathered, fantastic.
Right.
And I believe that it will contribute to my next leg, whether good or bad. And I believe that I want my people to know I'm still under 50 and the future is bright. I'm a very long-term investor. My foresight, I think far. So this is a minor glitch in the system. And we'll bounce back and do even greater, trust me, even greater. So
if you were to get a ministerial appointment in a future NPP government, would you take it?
Another opportunity to serve Ghana, I will. I'm all for.
Which sector would you preferably choose? Health?
Well, my constituents need roads. So I would love to have something, either roads or work and housing, because that is what is
Those are the crucial problems.
troublesome for my constituent. But wherever, wherever they put me in the future, I'm ever ready to serve. Yeah.
Let's talk about the Public Accounts Committee and
Yes.
some of what has been unearthed in recent times, putting that side by side with the latest corruption perception index. It appears we are not making a headway. If you follow the PAC sittings and you listen to what goes on right from the districts and these enterprises, state-run and everything, it appears it is loot as much as you can. Internally generated funds gone. Contracts bloated, sometimes beyond the 60% that is allowed. You get to the Auditor General, sometimes they'll tell you, let there be retrospective, whatever. The system is a shambles. What do you think we can do? Because it appears the fight against corruption, let's face it, we are not winning this fight. If anything, corruption, let me speak tree here. That's what's happening.
I'm in Public Accounts Committee, and I'm of a different perception.
You are?
Yes. I'm of a different perception in the sense that the volume of issues have reduced.
Oh, as for the volume, I believe some will, and it's because of fear. In